Hello, everyone, and welcome to our second webinar in this series on active citizenship. This webinar is part of the Pathways to Active Democracy project, which is co-funded by the Erasmus Plus program of the European Union. Today, we're diving into a powerful and important topic, European citizenship and values. When you hear the term European citizenship, what comes to mind? Is it a passport? A blue flag with yellow stars? Maybe opportunities to travel? These are all part of it, but European citizenship is more than that. Sometimes when we hear the term European citizenship, it might sound like something distant, abstract, or even bureaucratic. But it's actually something deeply connected to our daily lives, especially as young people in the EU. It shapes how we live, how we travel, how we learn, and how we work. It connects us not just to our own countries, but to a whole community of over 400 million people. It's not just a status, it's an invitation to participate, to have a say, and to help shape the future of Europe. Let's begin by thinking about this. Have you ever traveled to another EU country without needing a visa? Or bought something online from a shop in another EU country? Have you thought about how you have rights, not just as a citizen of your country, but as a European? That's what we'll be exploring today. So this session will help us understand what European citizenship is, learn about our rights, but also our responsibilities, explore the key values that guide the European Union, and discover the role of youth, in upholding and spreading these values. So, by the end of this session, you'll not only understand what European citizenship is, but also see how it connects to your everyday experiences, your opportunities, and your power to make a difference. Let's dive in. So, what is European citizenship? The term European citizenship was introduced with the Maastricht Treaty in 1993. It doesn't replace your national citizenship. It adds to it and complements it. It means that if you're a citizen of any EU member state, you're also a citizen of the European Union. So what does that really mean for you? It gives you certain rights, including freedom of movement. You can travel, live, work, or study in any EU country without needing a visa. Political participation. You can vote and even run in local and European elections in any EU country you live in, even if you're not a citizen of that country. Consular protection. If you're ever outside of the EU and your country doesn't have an embassy there, you can get help from the embassy of any other EU country. And one more, you have access to documents and petition rights. You can write to any EU institution and get a reply, get information. You can petition the European Parliament or even lodge a complaint to the European Ombudsman. Let's make this a bit more specific and look at an example. Imagine you are from Romania and you move to the Netherlands for university. As an EU citizen, you can study there without needing a visa. You can also vote in the municipal elections in Amsterdam, or vote if you happen to be there during a European Union election. If you travel to South Africa and lose your passport, but there is no Romanian embassy where you are, you can go to the German embassy and get help. That's the power of European citizenship. So, let's check a bit and make a quick quiz. You can answer true or false. I need a visa to work in Italy. That's false. If you're an EU citizen, you can work or study in Italy without a visa. Number 2, I can vote in local elections in France if I live there. True. Again, if you're an EU citizen, you can vote in local elections in France, even if you're not a French citizen. I can send a petition to the European Parliament. True. You have the power to make your voice heard in the European Parliament by petitions. But it's not, the European citizenship is not just about rights. It's also about a shared common identity. Despite our many differences, we're bound together by a commitment to democracy, equality, human rights, and peace. Let's break this down further, because as we said, being a European citizen gives you rights, but also there comes some responsibilities. Except for the rights that we already talked about, you have some more rights as a European citizen. You have the right for non-discrimination. That means that no matter your race, religion, gender, age, sexual orientation, or disability, EU law protects you from being treated unfairly. Your rights include also consumer and environmental protection. Different EU laws protect you as a consumer and ensures your right to live in a healthy environment and protects the climate. Another right that is very important in our digital times is the right for data protection. Maybe you have heard of GDPR, or you were asked to give your consent for a website to send you cookies. That is because under the GDPR, your personal data must be handled with transparency and respect. Let's put all this in an example. Imagine you buy some headphones from an online store that is that's based in Spain, and those headphones come to you, but they're faulty. They have an issue. That's where EU law protects you. You then have the right to either get a refund, a replacement, or ask for repair. That is not just the company's customer service. That is European citizenship in action, serving you. But we said there are some rights, but there are also some responsibilities. What can those be? As a European citizen, your responsibilities include participating in democratic life. That means voting, but also expressing your opinions, engaging in dialogue. Democracy only works if people take part. By voting in elections, you help shape the future of Europe. Another of our responsibilities is respecting the laws and values of the EU. There are laws that protect all of us. Being informed and respectful of them can keep society and the EU fair for everyone. And lastly, another responsibility that is also really important is fighting discrimination and defending the rights of others. When you witness injustice or discrimination around you, being silent isn't a neutral option, it's acceptance. So we have to act in order to defend the rights of everyone. Being a citizen is not a passive thing. The EU is a project that was built and is built by its people, and it can continue to exist only if we participate and keep it strong. That's why youth participation especially matters. Because if we don't use our voices, other people will speak for us. Now, I want us to reflect a bit on this. I would ask you to think about the time that you exercised an EU right. Maybe you studied or traveled abroad, or used your language to read an EU document. And now ask yourself, what is one way that I could be a more active citizen this year? So far, we've talked about what European citizen gives us. Now, I'd like us to talk about what it stands for, its values. These are not just nice words in a document, they are commitments. They are our guiding light. I will start again. Cut. So far, we talked about what European citizenship. So far, we talked about what European citizenship gives us. Now, let's talk about what it stands for, its values. These are not just nice words in a document. They are commitments. They are our guiding light towards the vision of a stronger Europe. So let's see. According to Article 2 of the Treaty on European Union, the EU is founded on human dignity, freedom, democracy, equality, rule of law, and human rights. Let's see a bit more about what each of these values stand for. So, we have human dignity. What does that mean? That means that everyone's life has value. No one should be treated as less than human. Then we have freedom. This means freedom of expression, freedom of thought, freedom of religion, and freedom of personal choice. Democracy. This means that decisions are made by the people through voting and active participation. Equality. Equality means that everyone should have the same opportunities and be treated fairly. The rule of law. This value means that no one is above the law, and governments must follow rules too, not just the citizens. Human rights. Everyone has rights simply because they are human. Rights like privacy, education, and freedom from torture. Now, let's dig a little bit deeper on each of these values, because I think it's really important to understand what they stand for and not just hear the words. So, let's visit them again. Human dignity means protecting people's rights in hospitals, in schools, in the workplace, everywhere. It means not tolerating and accepting hate or humiliation. Freedom includes things like being able to love who you want, pray or not pray, and be able to express your opinion without fear. Democracy means you have a say, not just by voting, but by engaging in civic life through protests, petitions, and public dialogue. Equality means fighting discrimination wherever it appears, whether it's against women, ethnic minorities, LGBTQ plus people, or people with disabilities. The rule of law ensures that even leaders must follow rules. It stops corruption and protects our freedom. And finally, human rights include access to justice, a fair trial, education, healthcare, and the right to live free from violence. Why do these values matter so much? And I'm stressing it and have repeated them 3 times already. Because we're living in a difficult time when those values are being tested. In some countries, media is controlled, judges are pressured, or people are targeted for who they are. We see threats to democracy and the rise of authoritarian leaders. Because of our digital landscape, misinformation spreads faster than facts. Discrimination and hate speech are growing, especially online, but with real-life impact. All these go against EU values. When those things happen, the EU can take legal and financial actions. But citizens also need to stand up. What does the EU do to protect these values? The EU is taking actions through 3 major ways. Number 1, rule of law reports are created for each country, evaluating their justice system and their government work. The Digital Services Act and the Code of Practice on Disinformation are 2 initiatives that aim to make social media platforms accountable for the news and information that they share. But as I said before, defending values isn't just for governments or for the EU itself. It's for all of us. Think and ask yourself, what does democracy mean in your daily life? How do you respond when you see hate speech online? How can you promote inclusion in your school, your workplace, or community? Being part of many cat. I have the privilege of taking part and observing a lot of youth initiatives. And I wanted to give you an example of a really beautiful project where young people created their own podcast series called Values in Voices. Their episodes focused each on one European value, and they interviewed people from different backgrounds. That way, they made the abstract feel personal. I might have repeated those values again and again, but it's all with the goal of you understanding it and connecting with them in your own way. So that initiative that I talked about is exactly active citizenship in practice. It makes these abstract, nice words into a personal story that everyone can connect with. And this is one example of how all of us can be more active and open discussions. One really strong value in the European Union is diversity, and the EU's official motto is United in Diversity. Let's see, what does this mean? Europe is not just a melting pot, it's more like a mosaic. When a country and a culture joins the European Union, we don't have to lose our cultural identity to be united. We all speak different languages, we eat different food, we celebrate different holidays. And yet, what connects us is that we share common values and goals. Some example of how the EU is celebrating this diversity and bringing it to the forefront is that the EU has 24 official languages, and all of them have equal status in institutions. If you visit a European Union website, usually you can find most of the important documents in all 24 official languages. That gives access to people that don't speak a second language, and it celebrates its country's culture. Another way that the EU is celebrating this diversity of culture is through the initiative called European Capital of Culture. This project highlights cities across Europe and their unique culture, contributing to the sharing and exchange. Lastly, Creative Europe is a project that supports film, music, literature, and media projects from different countries. Diversity is not just about nationality. It also includes gender, religion, ability, language, sexual orientation, and more. The EU actively works against discrimination on all these bases and for inclusion. Projects like Erasmus+, which this webinar is part of, and the European Solidarity Corps help young people experience this diversity firsthand. Another project of the EU, Discover EU, gives free train passes to 18-year-olds to explore Europe and its different cultures. This program shows us that being European is not about being the same. It's about building bridges between those differences, understanding them, and celebrating them. Maybe you've taken part in an Erasmus Plus youth exchange. If you ever did, you probably felt this. That moment when you're sitting around a table with people from 5 different countries, laughing at your accents, sharing music from your country, debating politics, and realizing you have more in common than you thought. That is European identity in action. I want you to think for a moment. What do you bring to Europe from your culture? What you love seeing celebrated? And what is one thing that you have learned from others? So now we shared a lot of beautiful things, and you might be wondering, okay, this sounds good, but what can I actually do? And the answer is a lot. As a young person, you can vote in local and EU elections because your voice does really matter. You can volunteer. You can join, for example, the program European Solidarity Corps and volunteer abroad or even locally in your own country with the support of the European Union. You can raise awareness. You can use your social media and your platforms to talk about human rights, democracy, inclusion, diversity, and all the values of the EU. And lastly, you can organize. You can create your own project, maybe join a youth council, join an initiative from the EU, start an informal podcast or a workshop series. I have 2 more examples from projects that I have witnessed. In Poland, a group of young people noticed that there was a lot of anti-LGBTQ plus rhetoric. And they started a project, an initiative where they held discussions circles in schools and community centers, bringing people together to talk, listen, and learn from each other. In another project, another youth led team collaborated and brought volunteers to more rural areas and helped elderly people and people without access with their digital skills. That showed really their solidarity and started to build intergenerational bridges. Your voice is powerful and your creativity is needed because your actions can really shape the future of Europe and make it stronger and brighter. In order to close this webinar, I would like to bring it all together. As we said, European citizenship is not just a passport or a legal statute. It's a shared identity. It's a commitment to values that are essential for peace, justice, and progress. It can offer you real opportunities to move, to learn, to work, and live across the borders. But it also asks something of you: to participate, to engage, to care. So I would like to leave you with a few questions. What do you personally value about being European? How can you take action in your community to promote European values? What's one thing you will do this month to be a more active and informed citizen of the EU? We would love to hear your thoughts. I would invite you to put your comments down below and open a discussion about being European and what it means for us and what we would like it to become in the future. Thank you so much for being here. Europe needs you, and not just as future leaders, but as present change makers. Goodbye.